I found my wife's longtime affair partner. Their secret weekend getaway was just the beginning. Now she's claiming half my $500, $0 inheritance and trying to divorce me while I'm still mourning the betrayal. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy to find out my wife was cheating on me, especially not in such a brutal way. It all started with just little things: missed calls, late nights, her phone suddenly password protected, and her being way more secretive than usual. At first, I thought maybe she was just stressed or had a new job that kept her busy. We'd been married for 10 years, and honestly, I loved her. Her name was, and she was the kind of woman who knew how to charm her way through any situation. But lately, something felt off. The signs weren't blatant at first. She'd come home late, smell like perfume I didn't recognize, and brush off my questions with that fake smile she's perfected over the years. I was starting to get suspicious, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Then one night I decided to check her phone, nothing malicious, just a quick peek. That's when I saw it. An entire string of messages with a guy named Jason. They weren't just friendly chats, there were flirty texts, plans to meet up, and even photos of her in a hotel room with him. The messages were from just a week ago. My stomach dropped. I couldn't believe it. My wife, who always claimed she loved me and that I was her everything, was sneaking around with some guy. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I stared at the screen, trying to process what I was seeing. This wasn't just a mistake or a one-time thing. This was an affair. And from the tone of those messages, it was serious. They had a whole secret weekend getaway planned, and she was talking about how much she needed this escape from her boring marriage. That was the moment I knew I had to confront her. The next day, I sat her down after dinner. I told her I knew about Jason. Her face turned white for a second, then she started to blabber. She told me it was just sex, that she was bored and needed something exciting. Said she loved me but needed a break, and that Jason was just someone she'd met and felt a connection with. She looked me straight in the eyes and lied, claiming she never thought it would go this far, that it was just sex, and that I should understand her need for adventure. Yeah, right. I looked at her and felt a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. How could she lie so easily? How could she do this to us? That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to that hotel room, those messages, the betrayal. It felt like my whole world was crashing down around me. The woman I trusted was out there sleeping with another man, and she was lying to my face about it. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see it coming. I'd always thought we were solid, that we had a good, stable life. Turns out I was just fooling myself. That was the moment I realized everything I believed in was a lie. I was hurt, furious, and more betrayed than I've ever been in my life. But I knew one thing: this wasn't going to end with her walking all over me. I had to figure out what to do next. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't look at the same way. The woman I'd loved, trusted, and built a life with was out there sneaking around, lying to my face, and probably doing God knows what with Jason. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the way she lied so effortlessly, like I was some idiot for not seeing it sooner. That morning, I decided I needed to get some space, clear my head. I went to work, but my mind was still stuck on those messages, on her face when I confronted her. It was like a punch to the stomach every time I thought about it. Throughout the day, I kept replaying everything in my head. I had to figure out how deep this went, how long she'd been doing this. I started digging through her stuff, her emails, her social media, anything I could find. I even checked her bank accounts. That's when I saw the first sign of how far she'd gone. She'd recently opened a separate bank account, and there were deposits coming in from Jason's supposed business expenses. I also found receipts for hotel stays, dinners, and some gifts she'd bought him. It was all there, right in front of me. She wasn't just cheating, she was planning a whole life with this guy. I felt my blood boil. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I kept it together, at least for now. I knew I had to confront her again, this time with concrete proof. That evening, I sat her down again. I told her I knew everything: the messages, the money, the plans. Her face twisted into a sneer. She started to deny everything, claiming I was paranoid, that I was just projecting my insecurities. She told me Jason was just a business contact, that she was just having fun, that I was overreacting. The way she lied, the way she looked at me with that fake, innocent expression, it made me sick. I could see the contempt behind her eyes, like I was nothing but a fool. In that moment, I realized I couldn't trust her anymore. She was a master at lying, at twisting everything around. I felt the walls closing in, the weight of everything crashing down. I'd always believed in honesty, in loyalty. Now I wasn't so sure about anything. My mind raced with questions. How long has this been going on? Was I blind? Did she ever love me? The pain was overwhelming, but beneath that there was a spark of anger. I wasn't going to let her get away with this, not without a fight. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what to do next. I knew I had to come up with a plan, something that would make her regret everything she'd done. I wasn't just going to throw her out and walk away. No, I wanted her to feel the consequences of her betrayal. I wanted her to understand that you don't mess with someone's life and get away with it. That's when the idea of revenge started to take shape. I wasn't just going to confront her and divorce her. I needed to make her pay in a way she'd never forget, and I was determined to do it, no matter how long it took. Over the next few days, I threw myself into planning. I couldn't just confront her again and hope she'd come clean. I needed something more calculated, more satisfying. I started gathering evidence, not just of her affair, but of how she was trying to manipulate the situation. I dug into her financials further, her secret account, her credit card statements, even her phone records. I wanted to know exactly what she was up to, how deep her plans went. What I found was staggering. She'd been talking to Jason about splitting our inheritance, half of my $500, $0, like it was her right. She was claiming I was a terrible husband, that I'd never supported her, and that she deserved a better life. She even started talking about divorce, like she'd already made up her mind. That was the real kicker. She saw my inheritance as a way out, a way to secure her future with Jason. I'd been working hard for that money, building my business, saving for retirement, and she thought she could just take half of it like it was nothing. That's when I knew I had to act fast. I decided to hire a private investigator. I wanted proof of her plans, her meetings with Jason, everything. The pie confirmed what I already suspected. They'd been planning to run off together, maybe even before I found out. They booked a weekend getaway, just the two of them, leaving me at home, clueless. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. All those subtle changes, the late nights, the secret calls, they were part of a bigger picture. They weren't just having an affair, they were trying to steal my life. Meanwhile, kept up her act, pretending everything was normal. She'd come home late, act innocent, and then turn around and accuse me of being paranoid. She'd tell me I was overreacting, that I was insecure. She threw in her usual line, "You're just jealous," or "maybe you're just afraid of losing me." It made me sick. I saw through her lies now, and I could see how she was trying to manipulate me into thinking I was the crazy one. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. One night I decided to confront her with everything I'd uncovered. I laid out all the evidence, her secret account, the hotel receipts, the conversations with Jason. Her face twisted into anger. Everything, of course, started screaming that I was spying, that I was crazy, that I had no right to invade her privacy. She said I was paranoid and that I was ruining our marriage over some stupid accusations. But I knew the truth. I saw her desperation, the way she tried to cover her tracks. That's when I realized she was planning to leave me, maybe even take the inheritance and run off with Jason. I felt a strange mix of emotions, disgust, rage, and finally clarity. I knew I couldn't keep going like this, pretending everything was fine. I had to do something, and I had to do it fast. The plan was starting to take shape in my mind. I'd catch her in the act, expose her to the world, and make sure she paid for what she'd done. I wasn't just going to let her walk away with my money and my life without consequences. That's when I realized that revenge wasn't just about her cheating. This was about reclaiming my dignity and making her regret ever crossing me. The day I decided to execute my plan, I felt a strange calm settle over me, mixed with the usual storm of anger and betrayal. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I set up a sequence of events that would catch her red-handed, something that would leave no room for her to deny or spin her way out of. I contacted the private investigator again, instructing him to follow her on her supposed business trip that she kept claiming was work-related. I also arranged for a friend of mine, someone I trusted implicitly, to be ready to record everything if she made any moves. That evening came home looking more confident than usual. She was already acting like she'd won, like she had the upper hand. She was bitchy, snapping at me for accusing her of nonsense, and throwing around her usual lies about how I was just insecure. She even had the nerve to say she needed her space, that she was tired of all the accusations. I kept my cool, knowing that this was the moment everything would come crashing down. I had to let her think she was still in control, that she was winning. A few hours later, the pie called me, had left the house, and they'd been following her since she got in her car. Turns out she wasn't going to some business trip at all, she was headed straight to Jason's place. I was waiting at home, phone in hand, heart pounding. As her car pulled into the driveway of that fancy apartment complex Jason shared downtown, I pressed record on my phone. I wanted everything documented, the arrival, the kiss she gave him, the way they hurried inside. It was all there. Evidence that she was actively planning to leave me, to take my inheritance, and start a new life with her lover. The moment she stepped inside that apartment, I knew I had her. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and disgust. Satisfaction because I finally had proof that she'd been lying, cheating, and scheming behind my back. Disgust because I realized how far she was willing to go, how much she'd betrayed me. I also knew this wasn't just about catching her. It was about teaching her a lesson she'd never forget. I'd give her enough rope to hang herself, and then I'd do what I'd been planning all along. The next morning, I confronted her again. This time, I played the recording for her, her arrival, her kiss, her secret meeting with Jason, her face drained of color. She tried to deny it, of course, claiming it was all a mistake, that she was just confused, that Jason was just a friend. But the evidence was irrefutable. I watched her scramble, her lies falling apart one after another. That's when she finally broke down, screaming that she was tired of pretending to love me, that she'd never loved me, and that she was leaving anyway. She told me I was just a boring, insecure husband and that she deserved better. I felt my fists clench. All the pain, all the anger suddenly boiled over. I told her she wasn't going anywhere, that I'd make sure she didn't take my inheritance or ruin my life. I handed her the recording, the receipts, everything I had collected. Her eyes widened in panic. That's when I knew I had her cornered. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about protecting what was mine, my money, my dignity, my life. I told her she was done, that I was filing for divorce, and that I was going to make her pay for all her lies and betrayal. I could see her realization sinking in. The game was over and she wasn't getting away with it. That morning, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with rage. I'd done everything I could to expose her, to make her understand that crossing me was a huge mistake. I was prepared to fight for my inheritance, to protect what I had worked so hard for. I knew this wasn't going to be easy. She'd try to spin it, lie, manipulate. But I had the proof and I wasn't going to back down. It was time to take control. I was done being the victim. Now I was the one in charge and she was about to learn that she messed with the wrong guy. The fallout was immediate and intense. I went straight to my lawyer with the evidence, the recordings, the bank statements, the receipts. We filed for divorce that very day, citing infidelity and financial betrayal. Of course, started to spin her own story. She told friends and family that I was controlling, paranoid, that I'd been abusive, anything to shift the blame away from herself. But I didn't care. The truth was out, and I had everything documented. In the weeks that followed, doubled down on her lies, trying to keep her grip on the situation. She filed for divorce herself, claiming I was violent and unstable. The legal battle was brutal. She claimed I was trying to ruin her reputation, that I was jealous and insecure. But I had the evidence. The recordings proved she was planning to leave me, and the bank statements showed her intent to take my inheritance. I also discovered she'd been secretly transferring money from our joint accounts into her own, trying to hide her plans. Meanwhile, I focused on protecting my assets. I contacted my bank and froze her access to the accounts she'd been trying to drain. I also hired a financial advisor to help me navigate the mess she'd made of our finances. I made it clear I wasn't going to let her walk away with a dime of what I'd worked for. It was a battle, but I was determined to hold onto my inheritance and my dignity. As for her lies started unraveling even more. The more she tried to spin her story, the more evidence I presented that contradicted. Her attempts at manipulation failed miserably. I could see her desperation growing, her bitchy attitude turning into outright panic. She realized she was losing control. I wasn't just going to sit back and let her make a fool of me. I was going to fight for everything: my money, my reputation, my peace of mind. And I did. The court proceedings dragged on, but I stayed firm. I knew I had the upper hand. I'd caught her red-handed, and my proof was irrefutable. I wasn't about to let her get away with trying to steal my inheritance and destroy what we had built. I confronted her one last time before the final hearing, telling her that she'd burned whatever bridge we had left. I made it clear that I'd be moving on, that I'd rebuild my life without her. It felt like a huge weight lifted. I finally saw her for what she truly was: a manipulative, selfish woman who thought she could get away with anything. Looking back now, I realize how much I learned from all this. I learned that trust is a fragile thing, and sometimes people will betray you in ways you never expected. I also learned that revenge, when done right, isn't about destruction. It's about reclaiming your life and dignity. Betrayal taught me to be more cautious, to guard what's mine, and never to ignore the signs of trouble. I'm still healing, but I'm stronger now. And honestly, I'm glad I caught her when I did. It's not just about the money, though that's a big part of it. It's about realizing my worth and refusing to be a doormat for someone who doesn't respect me. If you're ever in a similar situation, my advice is, don't ignore the signs, gather your proof, and fight for what's yours. Because once they cross the line, there's no going back. Now, looking back, I realize how much this whole ordeal changed me. I used to think I was invincible, that I had a marriage built on trust and mutual respect. Turns out I was just naive. Betrayal shattered that illusion, but it also forced me to see things clearly: about her, about myself, and about what I deserve. I've come to understand that sometimes the best way to reclaim your life is to confront the darkness directly, no matter how painful it is at first. The divorce was finalized a few months ago. I kept most of my inheritance, and I made sure got nothing. Her lies and manipulations didn't deserve to benefit her. I moved out, started focusing on my business again, and slowly I'm rebuilding my confidence. The trust I once had in people, especially in a relationship, is gone, but I've learned to be more cautious, more aware. One thing I want to say to anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation: don't ignore the signs. If you suspect something's wrong, don't brush it off. Dig deeper. Protect yourself and your assets. And most importantly, don't let anyone make you feel guilty for standing up for yourself. Revenge isn't about petty payback. It's about reclaiming your dignity and making sure the person who betrayed you understands they can't walk all over you. Honestly, I feel a lot of relief now. The pain will fade, but I'll carry the lessons with me forever. I've realized that no amount of money or superficial happiness is worth sacrificing your self-respect. This betrayal was a wake-up call, and I'm grateful I caught it before it was too late. I'm slowly putting the pieces back together, and I know that, in the end, I'll come out stronger. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the truth always comes out, and the only way to survive betrayal is to face it head-on and take back control of your life.